the number one practice that literally saved my life, I did not think of it. It came to me, right? The universe said, here, is what I call a love list. I started making lists of reasons I love someone. And there's specific reasons, and that's a really important word in there. So I could say, "Oh, Bettina, you're great." And that's a loving thing to say. But if I say to you, "Bettina, you are such an amazing listener. For the short time we've been together, I have felt your deep listening."
Today, we're diving deep into something that could incredibly impact our lives in the most positive way. And when we do it, it just touches more purposefully. And that is showing the people we love just how much they mean to us before it's too late. Our guest today is Richert Belul, founder of Simply Celebrate and author of Say It Now, is here to make that happen. She spent over 20 years helping people move past busyness and hesitation to create heartfelt, meaningful connections. If you've ever felt like life is moving too fast, or if the days, weeks, months, years have slipped by and you haven't celebrated the people you care about the way you would have liked, this conversation is exactly what you need. Everyone, here's Sherry. And Sherry, some of the things that I thought we'd love to talk about today are things like overcoming fear of expression, everyday celebrations, transformative power of love lists, prioritizing gratitude and joy, and lessons from 20 plus years of experience. And I want to tell you, I went on your website and I saw your love list that we can download for free. I absolutely love that. I was like, to do that purposefully and intentionally, what a beautiful gift. So, but first, let's talk about like what got you on this journey to do this on purpose.
Well, first of all, Bettina, I just want to say thank you. It's wonderful to see you and be with you, and I'm so excited.
I'm
And
excited. I'm excited and I'm honored to get to spend this one-on-one time because usually it's like really quick, so that we get to see each other. So I'm so honored to get to know you better and to have this conversation. So what an honor and a privilege.
well, and I'm so glad that you asked that question first because it's usually what I love to start with. Because, and I don't even know if you know this, but I was suicidal as a young woman. And so Simply Celebrate grew out of that depression and anxiety. And I always like to start with that because I never want people to think like, "Oh, yeah, you're just naturally bubbly or you're just naturally positive." No, it's the farthest thing from the truth. Celebration and appreciation are practices for me, everyday practices. And so when I decided to stay on this planet, which was a choice at a very intentional choice, I said I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here fully, and I'm going to celebrate myself, my life, and the people I love.
Wow. Probably because you made that choice. I think so often folks are here and we take it for granted. Just like
Ah,
you, our conversation earlier, you were talking about my name. Oh, it's so beautiful. And I was like, well, I've lived with it for so long. I've just maybe taken it for granted that that's just my name.
yeah.
And you made the choice. And that might just be why your life, you recognize the beauty, the joy, the happiness, and maybe all the feelings, even the sads and the contrast, the anger, and that's because you experience all the feels. I'm gonna guess, right? You experience all the feels. You are able to have a fuller life.
I love the way that you picked up on that because that is, I always say that I think that the breadth of our sorrow allows for the depth of the joy, right? I do think they're very much connected, and grief and celebration are two sides of the same coin. They really are. Our human lives, just like you just said, where there's a whole range of emotions and feelings, and I'm so grateful that you picked up on that because sometimes people see Simply Celebrate and they think, oh, bubbles and confetti, which is great and I love that. But to me, it's really about being present to our lives.
So, can I go back? So, there are folks who are in that place of despair, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
every day is a choice.
Yes.
Every day is a choice. How did you get to that place? Because we've lost a number of friends to suicide. And
Yeah.
and very often in this season, right, we're going to come across folks, and they often are the folks that we see, and they're like, we had no idea. They're the happiest people. Everything looks like everything was great. We had no idea. They're not the people that look like their life is sad or in despair.
Yeah.
How do we make that choice and make it to where that choice isn't so hard every day, and that choice becomes more of a habit, and then that is no longer, it just becomes the way it is and who we are, and now we're living not by choice but
Yeah.
just what we do. How
Yeah.
does that transformation become?
I'll tell you, Bettina, and this was true for me 30 years ago when I was in the depths of it, and it's true for me still, is that I live moment to moment. Like to me, and I'll tell you really quickly if it's okay, the
Please.
story of what I call it's called I call them pinpricks of light for a reason. These little moments. When I was in that darkness, I was led to a meditation class. You know, there's some grace in life, right, that leads us to what we need. And in that meditation, if you've ever meditated, right, you focus on the in breath,
Mhm.
out breath. And when I walked in, it felt like this iron wall closing in on me. That was the depression was so heavy. And when I took one in, I literally in my head heard, I don't want to kill myself right now. And I was like, I thought it was solid, right? I thought it was an iron wall. But that moment, that in breath, was a pinprick of light in that iron wall. Like, and it made all the difference, right? Because I thought it was so solid and that I couldn't break it. And then I thought, oh, if I had one moment, maybe I could have another one. And so I started looking for, like, your smile right now is a pinprick of light, right? Like a tiniest
Oh,
sparkle that kind of makes us flutter a little.
so you're just looking for those one little moments. And it's interesting because I said day to day.
I
You're
know.
talking moment to moment,
For
minute to
it's
minute.
always. And I have to tell you, like, um, I love to celebrate life. I love to love. I love appreciation. And I'm still a person who is prone to depression and anxiety. So for me, that practice is still moment to moment. And the thing about a moment to moment practice is it's doable, right? Like if you say to someone, have a happy day or have a joyful day or have a whole day that you don't want to be off this planet, that's a big task. But to say, is there something in this moment? Can you find, that I looked out and we have an acacia tree outside and I was just like, oh, the colors, right? Like that's like
Hmm.
a stepping stone for me to a place of well-being. Like, okay, that's a moment, right? Uh,
Right.
I can recognize just then again, like I'm talking to someone that I really love that I haven't seen in a long time. That's a moment, right? That's a pinprick of light. And each one, right? It's like pinpricks of light in that heavy iron wall. That makes all the difference in the world, even though the wall is still there, right?
Right. But each pinprick just lets in more light and more light and more light and more light.
That's exactly. And the real secret, which probably won't surprise you because you've known me for a while, I practiced that for a long time. And then when I became sort of immersed in that kind of, ability to find those pinpricks of light for myself, I kind of could look around and realize there's a lot of people in the dark, right? Like for a long time it was just my own salvation. But then I realized like every day in so many ways. People are ill, they're grieving, they feel lost, they've lost their jobs, they've lost relationships they loved. Our life is all of it, right? And so um, the ability to practice creating those pinpricks of light for other people, that became like the real secret sauce, because of course we're always the first recipients, always.
And as I've started having more intimate relationships and deeper relationships versus superficial relationships, and I think like in our youth, we have just the 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 topical relationships, right? Of what is and what's going on right now, and very much forward conversations, right? That the present and the future. And conversations. But I think what's interesting is, as I'm 51 now, and I find that a lot of our conversations now have a lot of hindsight. Um,
Ah,
and it's very interesting now, they're deeper conversations, because what we're finding is like how that impacts what has happened in our past is impacting our present,
right.
right? So I wonder, so for those, is there anything, so let's say there's somebody who's really young, or as a parent, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything that a parent could do to help somebody, like their child, not have, and this might be a different conversation, right? Because you're really great about sharing love and connection and helping, like sharing that. But how can parents purposefully do this for their child who are so in their present, right? So that we can help them be in their present, so that when they're 20, 30,
Yeah.
and they can learn to make those choices in their present, if they're prone to depression, anxiety, and things like that, so that they can have those habits to create that and make the choice to stay and to live and to
Mm.
find those choices moment to moment.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that is along the lines of what we're talking about, at least in my opinion. And we were talking about this before we actually started recording, right? That it's like my entire focus of my life is about helping people to see you are beautiful. There you are, filled with light. You are joy. It's just that it gets covered over by, I think it has something to do with the human condition. It's not even a personal thing. I took it personally for so many years, which is the what's wrong with you? Why did you do that? Why are you like that? Something's wrong. Something's wrong. I think that we are, and a part of it is probably our culture of advertising and marketing that we need fixed. There's a lot of messages that particularly young people get, that they should be different than who they are, that they some even you remember when we were talking about your name, like
Yeah,
there's information that we should be fitting in, that we should be like everybody.
assimilate. Yes.
And I think that as parents, back to your question, what we can really do is love our children for who they are and tell them, explicitly. And, well, hopefully we'll talk about this a little bit later on, but it's like the number one
Let's talk
tool that I,
about it now. Let's talk about it now.
well,
Let's
and
let's talk about it now.
this is the moment, right? So the number one practice that literally saved my life, I did not think of it, it came to me, right? The universe said here, is what I call a love list. I started making lists of reasons I love someone, and there's specific reasons, and that's a really important word in there. So I could say, oh, Bettina, you're great, and that's a loving thing to say. But if I say to you, Bettina, you are such an amazing listener. For the short time we've been together, I have felt your deep listening, and I love that. I'm so grateful. It's it's
It
a different
touches.
truth.
Yes.
And so I think that practice that came to me, I started, my mother was the first one I ever made. And I had never actually seen my mother until I sat down and really intentionally focused on, what do I love about her? And I was filled with love in doing it. It's impossible, I think, to express love without feeling it. And so the reason it saved my life, first and foremost, was it's like I was filled with love. But then to give someone, and back to the idea of children, right?
Mhm.
If we give them a specific, it doesn't have to be a whole list, but that's a beautiful thing to do. But it could be moment to moment. Oh, I just love the way you made me laugh right now with that joke. You are just so great at seeing humor in the moment, so that they understand that who they are is joy, is love, is light.
I love that. So, in take that beat in that moment to tell them as specifically as you
Yeah.
can, in detail, what the greatness that is in them.
Yes. Yes, I love the way you said that. And, as much as we can, we all hear this all the time, but it's like, it's about who they are, not necessarily, what they are accomplishing. And we're in a culture of, it's another thing I'm really, trying to like help people see. It's not a celebration of the results of who we are.
Yes.
It's who we are, right?
Oh, I that is a big deal. So we have our kids who play competitive sports, and that's a big deal. And that is something that is very big in our family. And we stand out very much in this way. It's not about the win or the lose. The way
Yeah.
and other parents very much struggle with us. And this will go out if other
Really?
parents listen to this, they're like, "Yes, we do struggle with you. Yes, we do." They do struggle with us because it can be a championship and we lose and we celebrate our kid just as much as if we won. As long as they put in
Bettina,
just as much effort. And a lot of times we celebrate even more because they put in even more effort in the game that they lost, because they had to put in more effort in that game that they lost than in the game that they won. The game that they won, they kind of, a lot of times, they just kind of like, you know, skipped through it. But the game that they lost, they really went in and fought hard. So those games, a lot of times, they come off the field. We're like, oh my gosh, you played amazing, because they really did. And the parents are like,
oh,
they lost. No, they played amazing.
Bettina, this is so, I know you know this, but I have to underline that, right? How important is this? Because I think, and I'm just going to speak from my own experience. It's like that, you're not enough, you're not enough, you're not enough. That was so like just a constant loop in my head.
Yeah.
It came from, I didn't get that. I didn't win that. I didn't do that. I didn't, they were just like these external, but that's what I thought mattered, right? That's what I thought really mattered. And what you're teaching is so beautiful, right? What you're teaching, not just your own children, but anyone who hears
It's
you.
okay. I'll give them other traumas. I'm quite confident. But I'm hoping that's not going to be the one. They're going to have other traumas that I'm not going to be able to help them with, but I'm hoping this isn't going to be the one. They're going to have other ones that they're going to overcome. And
Right.
but you're right,
Well,
that not enough. And I think, when Jamie Kern Lima came out in Austin, and that went up and was talking about her book
yes.
Worthy, and it just hit so many folks,
Yeah.
so many people. And it's interesting, as I have so many conversations, so many people say the same thing in different ways, not feeling
Yeah.
like they're worthy, not feeling like they're enough, just, and the decisions that they make in their subconscious. I guess that's not, is that a decision if it's in your subconscious? I don't know. um
I'll go along with it. I think you're right. Yes.
I'm like, is that a decision? I don't know, but the subconscious, but the actions that are made versus in our subconscious, because of our feeling of not feeling like we're enough. Um, and And I love like this love list. It's us being a part of a community, right? If everybody continued always to just
Mm.
like you do, not I, on purpose. I want to say naturally, but no, you do it very much on purpose because I watch you do it month after month, just
Mm.
helping people just let their light shine, teaching people how to let their light shine on purpose. And you single handedly do that month after month, like change the culture of the ultra group before they
Mm.
walk in. And I've watched you month after month do that. And I don't know if you've seen it. I hope you, I know you have. So like just from that first month where everybody's like this, you know, to where you really engage folks and connect folks and just teach them how
Mm.
to just let themselves be and shine, and it's so beautiful.
Well, and thank you. It's a gift to me to hear, right? It is a gift. And it's, back to what we were just saying about not enough. So, you could probably heard in all of this, it's my way of being here is because if I focus on, again, you're in front of me, so I hope it's okay. I keep using you as an example, but if I'm focused on like there is this beautiful person in front of me who is so interested in having powerful conversations and talking to people and bringing light into the world, if I'm focused on that, it's a reminder to me it's not about how many views do you get, how many people are following you, how many this, how much of that, are you a bestseller, are you this, right? I'm so happy for you when those things happen, right? I'm happy for anyone when they happen. But to me, it's about this moment of you living out loud, right? Like I see it, I feel it. And what you're doing for me is bringing me to life and reminding me this is what matters. This is what matters. This moment of us connecting. Whatever else happens is icing on the cake, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, right? That's how I feel.
This is the moment.
This is the moment. This is where our life is happening, right?
Yes. So how are you connecting? What do you do to connect, and what advice do you have? So we have the love list, which I love, which we can download on your site
Yes.
for free, and which I already did. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. Well, and again, to me, the love list is the cornerstone of my work because it's both my own pinprick of light when I'm making one, and it's a gift, literally a gift to somebody. I'm also a huge advocate of creative gift giving. And so the love list doesn't cost anything to do. And there are 1,000 ways to present it. I'll just tell you just a couple things because I'm super excited. For any occasion, you don't have to go out and buy someone something, right? It's good for the planet, it's good for the wallet, and people really need to hear it. But so it's like, for instance, you could make a list of 10, 20, 30 things that you love about your children. And, depending on what their interests are, you could connect those love lists to that. Like sometimes I suggest for a graduation, for instance, people might want to give money, which is great. But you could have like $1 bills on each $1 bill, you tape a love list item, and then they open up a box and it's filled with, 20, 30, 50 things that are on dollar bills or flower
And
stems. I love
I can totally imagine at graduation, they're going to remember what you said specifically about them more
yes.
than than that money, because how you made them feel. They're going to remember how you made them feel so much more than the money that you gave them.
Exactly, right? Like, and that's the thing. Like, people often are like, what do I buy for someone? Or what do I buy? What do I get? What do I? but it's like people want to feel, right? People want to feel. And so I happen to have some flowers behind me, and that's another. Like if I'm, let's just say I'm going to visit a friend and I have, a dozen flowers, I could just tie on each one, a little love list item. It's a way to and I think you hinted at this. I can't remember if we were already recording or not, but it's like it can be vulnerable to express these kinds of things to people. And the love list, because there's so many ways to present it, you could do it in an advent calendar, you could just do it on little notes around the house. I mean, there are a thousand ways. And my book I actually list a ton of ways that people can present it. But it gives you a fun way to be able to express your love when it might be like a little bit awkward to, like to say out loud to someone,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I just love this about you. Although I encourage people to practice that as well.
I can see how if you make this part of your practice, you start noticing the beauty in people more. Because you have to become more intentional. You don't have to, but you get to become more intentional about it because this is part of your practice. Your world just became an even better place. Not that it became a better place, but you recognize the beauty in it more.
Exactly. I mean, what you're pointing to is the other piece of this, right? I mean, it's science. It's science that what we focus on, we see more of, right? It's the reticular articulate, what is it? The
Reticulating activator, right? It's like the monkey brain.
right. So it's like when I say to it, what do I love about Bettina? It's instantly goes to work. Oh my gosh, look at her smile. Look at how she is with her children. Look at how she is with other people. Look at the way that she has her work and she's so passionate, right? Like it's like trying to find all those things, which you're right. Like what a great practice. I mean, I've trained my brain, particularly with people, to do that. What do
Oh,
you love?
and
What do you
because of that, you have a fuller life. And I love that you said it does it at first it can make you feel vulnerable, right? What is it that you think about our society that happened that giving compliments that is vulnerable that like that that like it's so easy to be critical online, but giving a compliment to a person, that's vulnerable, but you can like go off and go online, right, and be complete, and that's okay. But like we're talking vulnerable to say, oh, I absolutely love how you made that child feel, and that's vulnerable. Like that's a little backwards,
It's
right?
crazy. It's a lot backwards, isn't it? I know. And you're going to have to help me find this connection, but I know it's there somewhere. But the first thing that dropped in my mind, and so I always feel like it's important. That's what life dropped in, was that the thing about our culture is we are not a culture that encourages presence and mindfulness. I mean, I know there's a lot, we've certainly over the last number of years, we've brought that more into the forefront. But nevertheless, I feel as if this is a world of go, go, faster, faster, move faster, go faster, distract, 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 scroll, 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 right? Like we're like, I've got a decade on you, and I'm old enough to remember sitting at a bus stop with, you know, maybe I'd have a book, but maybe I wouldn't even have a book with me, and you just be there, right? And so in that expansiveness of time and presence, there I just think there was some invitation. Somebody would sit next to me, and there's like, oh, hello, right? Like here
Yes.
we are, two people on a planet together. Who are you? What's important to you? Like I feel like we've
That's the
gotten
joy. That is connection, and there's a true need for that. You know what's interesting? So my family, we have season passes to go skiing.
oh,
So there's and here's a story, and this has to do with the connection part. So we like to go to this little locals mountain in New Mexico called Sipapu. It has an RV spot right at the base of the gondola. It's the only place, I hope I'm not telling everybody my little spot, but it's the only place in the Central United States that has an RV spot at the base of the gondola where you can ski in and ski out. So I park my RV right there. I can watch my kids go up and down from the inside of my RV, warm and cozy. So, but it's a locals mountain. So what that means is they get on the gondola, and whoever's on the gondola they share with, they chit chat, they go up, they go down. They know the people on there play their music. They're just like, hey, how's it going? It's a locals mountain, and it has that locals mountain attitude. The people that have worked there forever. They tease you. They say hi. They cheer you on when you do something. They cheer you on when you fall, and they're like, you got this, you can do it. And when you fall down and they see you come back next time and they see that you accomplished, they're like, you did it. And then the whole mountain has that attitude. Then we'll
Wow.
go up to Purgatory, which is a big mountain, right? And it's the one where it's a nicer mountain. It's bigger, it's got bigger hills, it's got more everything, more. You get on it. It's interesting because we'll go to Sipapu, then we'll turn around and go right to Purgatory, and they'll tell me, they'll get on a gondola and they'll start chatting with the person next to him. That person next to him is like, oh, are you, what are you, why, And then all of a sudden they feel weird. There's that awkwardness.
Yes.
And in about 2 days, they're ready to go back to their little locals mountain for the community, right? They can ski that mountain all day. It's fine.
Wow.
Go up and down. It's about having that connection. It's more important at the end of the day than the perfect slopes, the big grand mountain, the huge array of gondolas.
Bettina, is that just the most beautiful? I love that. I love that that dropped in for you to make that connection. And you even said, I just want to say it out loud again, because you even said more, right? Bigger,
Mm-hmm.
more, shinier, glossier. Like we're, we're constantly told that that's what we want, but it's not. What we want is to sit on that one gondola next to someone who is talking to us, right?
Who
That's
sees us? Who sees
yes.
us?
Who sees
Right?
us?
And what a gift. So we go sit next to somebody and see them and put away our phone. So some practices, I suppose, with intent is, and I see how if we purposely start making these lists, not only like what a gift we give ourselves.
Yeah.
So we're thinking these lists of love is a gift for somebody else, which
Right.
yes, they are. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. They're a gift for somebody else. Like that's, I can see how that's life changing for somebody else. It can impact somebody else for the rest of their life. But when we start intentionally making love lists, which I'm excited to start incorporating, how it will change the way our brain is wired.
I know it's like the perfect. I'm the reason I'm so excited, and again, I didn't think of it, right? It came to me. I feel like I was, the universe said, "Here, please steward this." But it's like it's a gratitude practice. It's a love practice. It's a gift for people. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't hurt the environment,
We'll
right? It's
start
just
seeing people. We'll start seeing people. When we go in a restaurant, we'll start seeing the hostess. When we go to a restaurant, we'll start seeing the server. When we start seeing people for who they are and the greatness that's within them because
yes,
we'll wire that part of our brain.
yes,
And
yes.
I hope that your stage gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And we just have a society that makes this their natural practice.
I thank you for saying that. Thank you for getting it. You know what I mean? Like, I love that you I can tell you understand it, like, and how it is so completely life changing. And I feel as if one of the most beautiful things about life is that the things that really matter don't cost anything. Like, to me, that's like one of the most amazing secrets. There are plenty of things, and that fancy skiing place I'm sure is great, but yet it's like the things that really matter, they really don't cost anything. And this is one of them, right? It's a practice. And, and you don't even need to have, I was going to say, all you need to have is a pencil and a piece of paper, but you don't even have that. One of the things I often encourage people to do is to use the audio recorder on your phone. And if you think of somebody, right, like you think of your mother, your cousin, or your best friend, and something reminds you, to just turn that on and, like, oh my gosh, just heard this song. It reminded me of that time we were dancing in eighth grade. I love you for being someone who has been such a part of my life. 30 seconds. So,
Mm, to have somebody know that you're thinking of them
with love, right? Like,
with
and I think,
love. Yeah.
and again, you and I talked about this a lot at the beginning, and I always keep saying, the more specific, the better, because it's like what that does is it's also reinforcing the relationship, right?
Yeah.
Like, nobody else has the relationship that you and I have, Bettina, right? Like, we have our own specific, and to me, that's what we're celebrating. Like, out of the 8 billion people in the world, how did I get lucky enough to be sitting across the table from you? You know what I mean?
So I'm thinking, okay, so when that person pops in my mind, the easiest thing to do, instead of saying, "Hey, I was just thinking about you," just describe the picture that I have of them in my mind.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So
Exactly.
that would be the specificity that I would need. Oh, I just want you, that was a big word that I just got on the first try. Can we just
Right.
take a beat to celebrate that? I'm really proud of myself on this one.
I love Bettina because she can use the word specificity on a dime.
Woo! Simply
Yeah.
celebrate.
And I know you're joking, but you're also not, right? Like, this is the thing. That is the essence of Simply Celebrate. You said something, you delighted in it, right? And then I delighted in you delighting in that. And then we had a series of little
Of delight.
different.
Let's and now we're delightful.
Right. Well, that's it, right? Like, because what happens is, I mean, I don't know the exact quote, but it is something like character is just really a series of actions, right? That have happened consistently.
And another thing also, I think that there's people that would think that that was silly to take
Yeah.
that beat to celebrate being able to enunciate a word. Right? That we would be afraid of judgment because there are folks that judge and that are so quick to judge. And I think our society, we've just got into this judgmental society. And speaking of Brendan, he talks about this with the scrolling, how that part of our brain is getting that wired, that
Yes.
highway part of our brain is becoming like an interstate highway that's just a mega highway of judgment. That's the way I've like there's neurons and I'm constantly
Yes.
just trying to deconstruct that highway of judgment constantly. There's not a lot of talk about how our energy from day to day needs to be. And I can see how somebody who is chasing that and doesn't recognize that energy, the grounded energy, the life, the soul, the spirit, could
Yeah.
see how that would be silly, right? Um, very much.
Yeah.
I remember my dad, who's a genius, and I was shocked. My father-in-law, we were visiting him and he had like this woods And he had taken these random pieces of wood and sticks and leaves and pine needles and dirt, and he'd made like a quote unquote sculpture of an alligator. And my
What?
dad was like, and we always teased our father-in-law as being silly, just silly. And my dad, who's a genius, he's worked with NASA, he's IBM, he worked on the satellite missions, like done so much. And my dad, who characterized our father-in-law as brilliant. Oh my goodness, look at what
Oh,
he did. He's absolutely brilliant. And everybody's like, that silly old man
oh,
in his play.
yes.
And it
Wow.
really shifted my perspective. And I was like, ah, that's where brilliance comes from in
Oh,
play.
Bettina, that is so good, right? That is so good. Because I think, and again, I feel like the need to sort of say, first of all, like, it doesn't have to look the same for everyone, right? Like the way that you and I are playing might not be what it is for someone else. However, there is some form of play, which I think when we're in play, we're not in ego. We're not in our little self,
Yes.
whatever you call that. I call it, the
We're not
conditioned
in a
mind.
prison. We're not in a box.
Right. And we're not even me or you. I think that to me, like when we were playing a few minutes ago, it's just like a life energy. And I think that's why it's brilliant, is because in that energy, we're open to inspiration, wherever you believe it comes from. I know everyone has very different ideas. I just call it life or source, that there's a whole mind out there, right? That when we're playing, we're and I do this a lot because that was what my life was like as a young person. It was like this,
Yeah.
it was just closed. And so play, I think, opens us to whatever
Yeah.
wants to come in.
Yeah, that playful, that when you think play, imagination, that,
Yes.
and when you think of ego, it's that grit, that grind.
Yes.
And when you're taught to hit those goals, you're taught to grit and grind. And there's value in gritting and grinding, but that can't just be the way it is. Like maybe I'm going to grit and grind to the mechanic shop, and then he's going to put in the oil and he's going to fix the engine, or else that engine is going to need to be replaced. It's going to burn out. It's going to be done. Or the bearings are going, or the bearings or whatever, like, or you can't run like that forever. As soon as you start recognizing the grit and grind, you got to like, that's a temporary situation. That's not a permanent condition.
Right. And I just encourage people to look. I've seen in my own life, and, I feel really grateful to be, I just turned 60 recently, and to be at this age where, like you were saying, there's a lot to reflect on. And
Yeah.
I can tell you that, one of the things that I've noticed the older I get is the more I'm present and not gritting, grinding, trying, the more like inspiration and brilliance that comes, that is not mine, but it just comes.
Right.
It's what I was saying about the love list idea. I didn't, I really want to come up with something that's going to save my life, or, it wasn't that. It just, in a moment of grace,
In
came
meditation,
in meditation.
in stillness and openness.
And I think that the more that we can lean in and trust that we're more relaxed, we're more present,
Mhm.
we have a little bit more expansive time, we could talk to the person on the gondola or at the bus stop.
Yeah. Do you find in meditation the world stops spinning?
That's a great question. um Now it does. When I started meditating, obviously 30 some years ago, At first, it seemed like it spun more. And I always like to say that to people because I think when people start meditation, it can be harrowing in a way. Like, great people can be
Yeah,
like,
because everybody says, yeah, when you get a thought, just put wings on it and let it go. And you're like, I can't catch it to put wings on it to let it freaking go.
right. And also, people are
It's
like, it's
spinning
coming at
out
me
of
like
my
this.
grasp.
Right. And I think that's an important thing. I always say to people, be so gentle with yourself. When you first, and it's a different thing for everyone, but it's like when you start to meditate, what you're doing is noticing. And at first, we're noticing how much crap is flying around in our heads and how much judgment and how, right? Like, and that's kind of
We're
hard.
becoming aware, which is the first step to everything. And if we can
Yeah.
become aware without the judgment, oh, that's
Hallelujah.
beautiful.
That's it, right? And that's why it's so important, not just with meditation, right? With anything we start, that we're first and foremost super kind to ourselves, right? Like, I just think that's so, you just said it, right? Like, awareness without judgment. That's
So
it.
how do we let go of the judgment? Okay, let's go there. Okay, because can we go there? Because awareness without judgment, because that's a lot of because it's easier to be judgmental, because in a way, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to allow yourself to be there. It's that vulnerability. And because you brought up the word vulnerable, and I think that's such a big word that folks have a hard time putting their brain around. We can put our brain around awareness. I think we use that word often. I see the
Uh-huh.
word judgment used so often. I don't see the word vulnerable used a whole lot.
Yeah.
Can we elaborate on the word vulnerable?
Well, I love that you're going there. I love your depth. It's just one of the best things about you, Bettina. Um, when you said it, again, what dropped into me is what is sort of, I think, been the wrapping paper in our whole conversation, which is we are so great exactly as we are. Like, I think we're just so great exactly as we are. And to me, when I'm feeling vulnerable, it's usually because there is some subtle way that I think I should be that I'm not. I don't know if this is true. I'm just coming out of my mouth right now, but I think, um, let's say I'm expressing something to you like that is very tender, and I'm expressing my love, and I feel vulnerable. It, if I just stop in my head and I think, oh, that's sweet. That vulnerability is part of this. That vulnerability is not
Mhm.
separate. There's nothing wrong.
Oh, because I might not reciprocate.
Right. Or you might
That
not
makes
even
me
receive.
vulnerable. It might not
Yeah.
be received well. And then if it's
Right.
not received well, then what? Then what? Oh my, then what?
Well, because
Then
it's not,
what?
Tina, it's not then what, it's the before what. The before what is if I'm aware, and I've practiced this a lot because I do a lot. I've gifted love lists to people that I know really well, people I don't know very well. And if I'm truly giving from a place of generosity and
Mhm,
not from the reason, goes back to our thing, right? It's not about the result. It's the moment. It's the movement of love. It's love in action.
mhm,
If I'm coming from, I moved to do this. This is what's here for right now.
mhm.
And there's no expectation of anything coming back. Then there's simply that moment,
Yeah.
right?
So here's like I think for you and I, we te we practice this more, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're more in we naturally compliment others. We
Mm,
see it, we look for it, we seek it, and we share it with
mhm,
others, right? Like
mhm.
seek the good in others and we let them know that we see it in others. That's something we've just kind of gotten to where it's become more natural in us over time. We've we've grown this within ourselves. But for folks who want to connect more, right?
Yeah.
This is and looking to do this. This can feel extremely vulnerable, right? To step outside. This is very uncomfortable to do it, right? It can like I'm just imagining because I've talked to folks, right? I've talked to folks about this before, and I know I'm just I'm speaking for them because they're like I can I see that person. I'm letting you know I see you. I'm gonna ask her for you. I because I know I see you right now. I see that energy coming from the pit of your belly and it's coming up here. Just the thought of having to go out there and maybe and this is where your list comes in, right? Where you're
Mm.
like, but how do we overcome that? Like, I'm just thinking. I just went through that whole exercise for them and I'm like, I gotta let that go.
But did you
Let-
just do it? Like, did you just answer it? No, no, no. Did you just answer the question when you said, right? Like, it to me, and I don't know, if this is going to be the answer for all those people, but I hope it is. It's like, do we really need to overcome it, or do we really just need to be with ourselves? Like, I wanted to put my hands on my heart when you were talking like that. Like, just like, do we just put our hands on our heart, or do we do whatever, soothing words to ourselves of, this is what growth is. This is what love is. Love is not comfortable, right? Like, connection is not always comfortable. It doesn't, I think part of it is like reminding ourselves that there's nothing wrong with feeling uncomfortable or vulnerable or exposed. And part of it is just that we have to prove it to ourselves over and over again. My son calls them anxiety busters, which I love. Like he
Mm.
will deliberately do things where he feels way too exposed. And it's a way of seeing like, I'm okay. I'm okay in this. Like, and I think part of it is that it's like, this goes back to everything we've been saying. Like, as a culture, why have we been taught that certain feelings are not okay? Grief, sadness, vulnerability, anger. Like, we're just taught that it's like, oh, how do I avoid that? But that's not really
Mhm.
the right question. The question is, how do I be with myself in it?
How do I feel that and be with myself in that
Yeah,
and feel the
right.
feel? Right. Not avoid the feel the feel, go through the feel, and then go to the next feel and get,
And trust
and
that there's
then,
some, sorry,
yeah,
yeah, go ahead.
go, no, no, please, please.
Well, just that when you were
Mhm.
saying that, I was thinking that there is a trust in it, right? There's a trust that there's something on the other side for us. It's easy to stay behind our phone all day long. That's
Yeah,
easy, but it feels crappy, doesn't it?
it does. Well, in the moment, it gives us the dopamine release that tricks us into believing that it doesn't feel crappy, right? But at the end, it really does. It it's all the studies show that it gives us depression, anxiety, all
No,
the yeah.
it's
Now we
numbing.
have to overcome the
Those
scroll.
Right. And I think that so what you're helping me to see is that um numbness is not what we're going for. Right? Like we're not going for to protect ourselves from feeling things, right? Like we're human beings and you know, it's not, I was going to say it's easy for me to say, but it's not easy for me to say. Like I have for
No.
years practiced with anxiety and depression and feeling less than and not enough. I mean, it's, I know those places so well, but it's like I also know what's on the other side, right? Which is connecting to
Yeah.
people and feeling alive.
So the challenge that we're going
Go
to
ahead.
offer folks is to go to your website, download the list for free, and that's a good place to start. Is just download that list for free and practice that and just do that. And I love on the fourth page, I think it's the fourth page, the last, all the creative ways and to give your love list. And especially as we're going into the holidays, I think for me as a parent, that would be the best gift I could
Yeah.
receive from a and especially at my age, I don't need anything. Please don't buy me anything. Like if I could get this from my peers, my friends, like if I want I almost want to say put this on my on like what do I want for Christmas? This is what I want for Christmas. This is the link. Go to simplycelebrate.net, download that list. That's what I want for Christmas. Everybody, that's what I want for Christmas. And I really think that this is what you really need to tell people what they want for Christmas, because I think if everybody gives everybody this for Christmas, right? Just
Can you
charge
imagine?
$9.99, make it a Black Friday special. It'll be the best gift on earth. It'll be one of those things we can frame it. It's just the most impactful gift I think anybody can receive right now, especially in this day and age.
I know. It is what people, it's what people really want. People want to know they matter. They want to know that they matter whether they accomplish anything or not. And I think that's super
Mm.
important, right? And they do. We all know that. I mean, I always love to point out to people, when you're at one of those beautiful celebration of life or memorial or funeral services, the things that touch people are not that he was the president of da 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 or you got this da 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 award. Right? It's like, oh, that time, he showed up for me when I was sick and he made me laugh. And, the stories people tell, they're moments. They're all just
Yeah.
those moments of true love and connection. And that's what, the reason my book is called Say It Now is because of that. Like all the time at people's funerals, people would say these things and they'd say, oh, I wish I would have said that to them when they could hear it. Right. I wish.
Mhm.
And it's like, you can say it to
Yeah.
everyone else that's still alive in your life, say it now.
Yeah. One of these things is I don't go to funerals. I don't know if
Oh,
that's something people don't know about me. I don't go to funerals. When my dad passed away, we didn't do a funeral for him.
uh-huh.
And when I pass away, I don't plan on having a funeral. When my husband passes away, we don't plan on having a funeral. So we just don't do funerals. So I tell people all the time, it's like if we pass away, don't expect a funeral. There's not gonna be one. Like
I
the time to spend with us is now.
I love
This
it.
is it.
I love it. You're like, if you got something to say to me, say it now.
Say it now because there's not a funeral. Like we just don't
I
do there's say it now.
know.
And so that means a lot. We just don't do funerals. Like I don't understand. I don't really understand funerals. And maybe I haven't been to a lot. I've been to a few. They seem very sad and depressing, and I don't understand the function. And maybe if I understood the function, I would get it, but I haven't yet. So I haven't gone. But I know for me, I don't want a funeral. I
Yeah.
I'm like, I loved them when they were alive. Like I can't talk to them now. Like they're gone. I'm like, I would rather after they pass away have that spiritual connection with them.
I think we might need to have a whole nother conversation. My next book coming out is an end of life planner.
Uh-huh.
And I have so much I want to talk to you about this topic of all of where we're starting to enter because um there's so much because it's another one of those places that people don't like to go, right?
Oh,
People are don't talk to me about don't talk to me about death or funerals or no funerals or you know what I mean? So
right.
yeah,
No,
we
and one of the things that my dad also gifted me is he donated his body to science. So when all I had to do is call this 800 number. After
yes.
he passed away, I called the 800 number and I walked away. They came, took his body, did whatever they needed with it, and then he came back and he's in that yellow box in our front room. I don't know what to do with the yellow box. I was like, this is great. Sign my, I was like, I called that 800 number. I was like, how do I sign up for this? Because this is the gift I want to give to my children. And I told them, I was like, when I pass away, you call this 800 number. They'll come get my body wherever it's at. Just give them the address. They'll pick me up and that they'll bring me back in the yellow box. And you do whatever you want with the yellow box. I don't recommend keeping it. Maybe taking it, because I because now I'm stuck with the yellow box. I don't know what to do with it. I feel like I need to give them instructions on, but I do want to give them permission to not keep a yellow box.
I love all of this, and I love even because you use the word. My work is all about gifts, right? The gifts of love, and the
Mhm.
reason my next book coming out is about end of life planning.
Uh-huh.
That is one of the biggest gifts we can give everyone. Just like you just said, one of the biggest gifts we can give. And again, it's like a whole other conversation, but you're touching into it is to not avoid the fact that we're going to die, and to as much as possible make that easier on the people who are left behind. Like, whoo,
And it is true. I was at I was in the hot seat the other day. It's like a circle as a coaching. We were like in a room and of entrepreneurs, right? And basically one gets in a hot seat and you talk about the biggest struggle,
yeah,
right? That you're going
yeah.
through and you bring up that topic and everybody kind of masterminds around that one topic and we all take turns getting in the hot seat. Ooh, I mean, it's real, right? But it came up really quick and I was like, yeah, so when I die, I said, when I die, and she's like, why are you talking about when you die? I'm like, well, it's 100% guaranteed of all of the things that we're talking about today. This is the one thing that I know for sure. Everything else is speculative, but of all the things that we're talking about today, this is the one thing that I know is 100% guaranteed. Like, of course. It's the
Ah,
only thing that I can like 100% guarantee. Everything else is just speculative, like
right. It's the one outcome we actually
only
can
one
count
thing I know for sure.
on. Oh,
Why are you getting on to me about this? Like everything else is like we're just trying. Everything else is a science experiment.
right. And to loop this back in, because in my mind they're completely woven together. When I remember that I'm going to die, I am much more likely to be alive. I mean,
To
that's
live.
to really live, right? To be alive in all the senses of that word. And that overcomes, like, when we start to think like, oh, it's too vulnerable to tell my best friend why I love her. Well, if we were on our deathbed, you can bet, like, if we were on our deathbed and conscious, one of those thoughts would be, I should have told him. I should have
Right.
told her. I should have said it. I should
You're
have
like
done it.
you want her to come to you right then and there to say so that you can tell them I love
Right.
you.
I mean,
If you
100%,
lived
right?
every day as though it was your last day, you'd say, I love you. Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
And
You
so,
that love list would be easy to write, wouldn't it? Oh, I love that. No vulnerability. So that would remove vulnerability right there. Just because we know for sure that's a 100% guarantee we will die. It's not a matter of
it,
if, it's a matter of when. And
yeah.
then make your list so that you can live each moment and love each moment.
Yes.
And then those around you, their life is better, your life is better,
And nobody regrets. I
and
mean,
we
to me,
choose
that's
that
like
life.
that's it. You just said it all. Like, that to me, that's what it's about, right?
Oh, this is lovely. Sherry, what a great thank you for like having this conversation with me. This is fun.
Thank you. You know what? I love your presence, Bettina. You're just boom, you're right here, ready, curious, alive, joyful. I Thank you so much. What a gift.
Thank
What a
you
gift.
so much. Like, this is really fun. And I hope we get to do this again. Like, if you have, like, for your next book, if you have that opportunity and if you can, you have time, you have energy. And I love the opportunity to have this conversation. Please.
Me too. Me too. It's super important and I'll hold you to it. We'll be back.